Whilst nothing but a few driver changes have taken place in the real world of F1, it hasn't stopped Codemasters from taking on F1 2013 and adding in a few additional features. Once again, you start off doing the Forced Young Driver test, which is pretty annoying, but at least you can skip straight to the second day if you have a save profile left over from last year's F1 2012, which was fairly useful. Most notable changes in the game are the new tyre wear system, which has been changed to mimic the real world F1 counterparts once again, with the tyres going off a lot quicker than they did last year. It really forces you to properly look after your tyres, and it does depend heavily on which car you drive. You'll notice that the Mercedes is much more damaging to the tyres than say something like the Lotus is. There have also been some tweaks to the way that the fuel usage works, with the need to manage a bit more than what you did in the previous games. We've also made a few changes to the way that the cars handle as well. Whether this is something that has happened due to the new tyre system, I'm not sure, but there is a notable difference from last year. It seems to have gone the right way, and with it now the cars seem a lot more planted than they did last year, and you don't run the risk of spinning out as easily as you perhaps could do before. You're also given quite a bit more feedback through the gamepad if you're trying to push the car too much, with vibrations being sent to the controller. The biggest thing that is still lacking though is the awesome damage model that we saw in Grid. I had many crashes that should have been race ending, but I just carried on perfectly fine like nothing happened, which is very disappointing. Good news however is that the AI has been massively improved. They no longer turn in on you in the middle of a corner, and they are much more aware of what's going on around them, being able to pull off quite a few passes around the outside fairly easily. There isn't much that has really changed gameplay wise. It's all the same game modes, menu systems and post-race cutscenes, but they have at least added in a new scenarios mode where you can take part in various different scenarios, such as Button versus Vettel at Canada in 2011 when it was absolutely chucking it down. Scenario mode has of course replaced Champions mode from last year, but does offer a wider variety of things to do. Also a welcome return to a single player custom championship, which was removed last year. This doesn't carry over to the multiplayer side of things unfortunately though. The last little feature that has been requested for quite a few years now is the ability to save mid-session, allowing those with little time to actually take part in a full-length race for the first time. Very stable regulations in the real world of F1 has allowed Codemasters to venture out in something that a lot of people are asking for as well, which is the classic cars. The base game allows you to step into various different cars from the 80s era and take them through a time trial or pitting them against each other. It is very weird racing something like a 81 car against an 88 car, but at least you can still get a 10 car sized race in the classics. It is just a shame that we won't have a full season replica of the earlier F1 games. The base game also includes the option of two tracks from the 80s, such as the well-known Brands Hatch circuit and Jerez. They have done it a bit weirdly though by having a team legend and then the original driver, but sometimes it ends up in strange choices, but hey ho, I suppose it is better than nothing. The only issue that I've seen with the classic content is that there is a strange colour filter which you can luckily turn off, and that the 2013 rules still apply, such as the use of both tyre compounds in the race. I presume this is the case anyway, as you do still have to pit when you're racing. I didn't want to break the rules and get disqualified though. Cars are fun to drive, and there is a very big difference between these cars, very little grip, and the cars of today. You find yourself sliding around the track a lot more with the sparks flying. It doesn't stop there though, you can also pick up some DLC or the classic edition and get your hands on the 90s era of cars as well. I absolutely love the 90s cars, and it was the very first thing that I tried out. There are some good classics in there, such as the 96 Williams or the 1999 Ferrari. Overall, Codemasters have done a good job at bringing us a fourth straight F1 game, even though not much has changed in the real world. There are some nice additions, and the classic content is a good step forward. I can't help but feel the way that the classic content has been done is a bit meh though. It just doesn't feel right racing cars that are 5 to 9 years apart at times. Maybe in the future we'll get a decent remake of some of the early F1 games on the PlayStation 1, such as F1 1997. I would definitely pick this up if you're a fan of F1 and have enjoyed the previous games. This could well be the next or last time that we'll see an F1 game on the current generation, as the next gen consoles are only a month away now.